Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Deirdre Reardon Hall, and I am here on Writers Uncut with my friend. Here we go. We're just getting live with Shay. I am here with you live and Cheyenne Young, also an author, to talk about all things writing, publishing, and promotion. So I hope you are going to join us. If you have questions, we'll have a little bit of time to answer any of those. And I just want to welcome you. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Your hair looks amazing today.
Thanks. I took the dog on a walk and it was like, it's kind of misty out. Like it's not raining, but it's not raining. And it was like really bad. So I was like, I'm going to do my hair.
Well, as you can see, I went all out today.
I see. That looks good.
Hey, I'm in drafting mode, so this is an accurate representation of a writer in drafting mode.
Oh yeah, that was me last week, and I was like, I was kind of just like, I don't know, I just felt not clean. I'm not saying that you don't look clean, but I was just like, this is just what it is for a few more days, and then I'll shower and do my hair and get dressed properly and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you just have to dive in and go with it and come up for air when you need to go to the bathroom and you need food. Maybe like hang out with your family for a little bit. I don't know.
The family's fine. They're fine.
Well, hello everybody. I'm glad you're all here.
Hi guys.
We have a bunch of friends. Hi Jen. Hi Kat. I'm trying to look here. They're all over your face, so I'm just gonna, I don't know how to, okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. Okay, so,
hey guys, thanks for joining.
Yeah, welcome to Writers Uncut, our weekly chat where we talk all things writing, publishing, promotion, pretty much you name it. And if you have any questions, I said this a minute ago, but if you have questions, we'll have a little bit of time to answer some of those. So put them in the comment box so we can get to that. Wow, I kind of look like a ghost. Hold on. You're the vampire and I'm the ghost. That's going to be our Halloween.
Yep. Well, it's overcast here today, so there's like no light at all.
Same. I have like the light in my eyes. But anyway, yeah, so we are going to talk to you today about what were our topics. Tips for plotting was one of them, right?
Yes.
And yeah, and if anyone has any questions, we want to answer you live. So anyway, should we jump into it?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
You go first.
Ah! You always make me go first. Okay.
Oh, we have a question. We have a question from Jen. Do you want to answer that? Do you have a preferred outlining method?
And then there's another one too. Any advice on how to get over a writer's block? Because that's a frequent problem I have. Okay.
Well, I don't see that question.
It's from @Life is a Nerd. I'm sorry, I forget your name. I think is it Ashley? I'm so sorry. Like we've DM'd and stuff, and it's fun when people have like cool usernames, but then when you don't know their name, it's like, oh.
I know, I feel so bad. Yeah, I'm not seeing all the questions. That's weird. Maybe there's a lag.
Yeah, there might be. So the first one I see in the queue, in the list, whatever, is any advice on how to get over a writer's block? Because that's a frequent problem I have. And then we have one from Jen. Do you have a preferred outlining method? And, oh, Julie. Yes. Hi, Julie. Life is Nerd. Her name is Julie. Okay, so should we answer those first and just kind of those? Okay. Am I going first still?
Yes.
Okay, so writer's block. I have to admit, I don't have this often because I have all the shiny little, ideas, and I'm like the magpie, and so I'm bouncing from one to another, and that's kind of like, that's my version of that, where it's like, I just need to focus on one idea. But I have occasionally experienced writer's block, and I think what's worked for me the best is, there's a couple things. Well, the first one that comes to mind is just like get out of my environment. So if it's one of those like acute cases of writer's block where it's just like I'm sitting there at the keyboard and nothing is coming and I'm just like not feeling it, I'm not feeling creative, or I'm just stuck on a scene or whatever, I just move away from the computer. I get out of the house, I do something to move my body, and I often find that just by taking a walk or doing some stretching or going and running an errand or something like that, it can help get the creative juices flowing again, just like physical movement, kind of moving out of the head and into the body kind of thing. And so that's one recommendation. And then the other one is, and I know you have a really good, suggestion, but because I've heard you talk about it before. But I'm just going to say this one really quick is sometimes taking the scene. Sometimes a writer's block isn't a matter so much of like we're creatively stumped, but the scene itself isn't where the story wants to go, if that makes sense. So we may have written ourselves into a section of a story we're writing, and we're like, okay, what next? You're like, how do I develop this scene, or where do the characters go? Like, sometimes it's like, you know what? Even though I wrote that scene and maybe I really like it and it kind of works well, maybe it's not the right one. Maybe it's not what the character wants or where the plot needs to go or whatever. And so sometimes it means just copying, pasting into a new document, saving it because maybe it'll come back later, and then going back to where you last left off, like where you didn't feel blocked, and writing from there. So those are two ideas that I've used. How about you, Shan?
So now I'm wondering which idea you think I'm going to talk about.
The one, you had a
the
really
list.
clever and creative one when you did your live chat with your agent.
Okay, that's what I was going to mention that. So
that.
when it comes to writer's block, I'm not even sure that I get writer's block the way that it's traditionally kind of romanticized as an author sitting at a computer not knowing what to write. That doesn't ever really happen to me. I have I call it like emotional writer's block. Like if I'm having a bad day, or sometimes if I'm really excited about something, like we might be getting a new puppy, so I wasn't able to focus this morning. Like if my mind is somewhere else, I can't write, and that's my form of writer's block. And so just like what you said, sometimes you have to physically remove yourself from the situation, get out, take a walk, go do something else, and it'll help you work out whatever problems you're having sitting down to write. Another thing, if you like are stuck in a scene or a situation and you're not sure how to move it along, go take a shower, because all your good ideas come to you in the shower when you can't write them down. So that's helpful, I guess. Like I've had times where I'm running out of the shower, like repeating something in my head so I can hurry up and write it down because I'm afraid I'll forget it. But yeah, so move yourself out of the situation. Another thing for a writer's block thing, if you're not sure kind of what to write or what to do next. Did you just type that? That was really good. I don't think I could type while talking. Okay, so another thing that I love, it's called the list idea, and I can't take credit for it because an old writer friend I knew years ago, I don't even talk to her anymore. I don't even know where to find her. She came up with the idea. But what it is you pick 5 random topics and you try to be as random as possible about it. So say like beach toys, vacation spots. I guess I'm on a vacation kick here. Songs, maybe something like movies from the 70s. You think of 5 random things and you send it to a friend. It doesn't have to be a writer friend, just anybody. And you ask them to list 5 things of that thing. So for one, you could say like, it's kind of like Family Feud or something. You could put items you'd find in a front yard. And someone could answer, garden gnomes, a stray dog, whatever. I'm not creative right now. But they give you 5 things for those 5 things. And then here's what you do. You take that list back to your WIP, your manuscript, and you try to incorporate one thing from each of those 5 things into this new chapter or scene that you're working on. And it sounds silly, but you would be amazed how much it works. Like if the list was a stray dog, then your character looks outside and they see a stray dog, and maybe there's a cute guy chasing after it, and there's your meet cute. Or maybe, a neighbor is yelling at this dog and your character goes to save it. Like if you have something interesting and random thrown at you that you have to incorporate into your story, you'll be amazed at how it just gets your writing gears turning and how it just inspires, stuff for your book. And a lot of times it won't even take you off of your plot or your outline. How are you typing while we're doing this? Anyway, it won't even take you off of your outline, I feel like, because you're just incorporating some random thing into a scene that you were already going to write anyway, and it's really fun and really helpful. And so sometimes when I'm just stuck, I will have a family member or a friend write me a list of random things See, exactly. Anne said a garden gnome story, she wants it. So that to me, that's like super, super helpful for busting out of a writer's block. But again, if it's a mental block, go for a walk or go do something. Just get away from the computer. Sometimes you can spend too much time at the computer and you're not going to get anything done.
Yeah. I kind of liken it to, like, you know how sometimes the computer freezes? It's like sometimes like we're just kind of creatively spent in that moment, or we're just, you know, not like. My phone charged and now it's at 20%. Are you still there?
What? Okay, yeah, can you plug it in while we're still doing this?
Yeah, I'll go do that, and do you mind keep talking? The next question was anyway, Julie, I hope that helped you. The next question was, do you have a preferred outlining method? Which we both
Yes.
are drafting right now, or I'm just finished drafting. So yes, we do have some things to say about that, I think.
Yeah, I can say a lot about it. So do you want to plug in your phone? Yeah, okay. I think she's leaving. Okay, so if you actually click on my Instagram profile and look at the Linktree link in my profile, down at the very bottom, I have a blog post with my outlining method on it. And I've actually just created a document that I use every time I outline any new book idea I have. And sometimes I vary from it. Like the document has a default of 25 chapters. Sometimes there's way more. Sometimes there's never less. Sometimes there's way more chapters. But I follow just the basic hero's journey outlining method. And I think it's really, really helpful because I've got these little notes. You'll just have to see the blog post to see what I'm talking about. But these little notes that kind of where you should be in your story. So I use it a lot when I'm outlining. And another thing that I heard years and years ago and I always think about is when you are outlining your story, you know, you want your character to go from point A to point B, but you have to make them fall, break their leg, make them lose their best friend. I'm sorry that my dog's making a lot of noise right now. You have to make that journey from point A to point B extremely hard for them. So anytime your character is like, you know, la la la, I'm gonna go here, you need to be thinking, what can I do to make that trip harder for them? Whether it's an actual trip like Lord of the Rings, or whether it's a mental trip, like you have to make it harder for them every single step of the way. Yeah. And it might sound mean, but after a while, you're really going to enjoy it. I mean, I love torturing my characters. It's really fun.
Totally.
So that's my outlining method. Check out my website.
I didn't know you had a post about that, and I'm excited to see your document.
I made a downloadable Word document and everything.
Ooh,
yeah.
Fun. Awesome. I love resources. I love them because I'll tell you the truth about myself. I think I've written a total of, I'm going to say upwards of 40, maybe 45 books, ranging from middle grade or children's picture books to middle grade to young adults to new adult and women's fiction. So I've spanned the gamut, and I've found that with each book, and in each genre even, or category, I use a little bit of a different method for outlining. It's almost like each story kind of calls upon a different variation of an outline. And we discussed in, I think, the last Writers Uncut live, or the one before, that we're both plotters. We both like to plot and outline and really know our story and what's going to happen well in advance, leaving room a little bit of room for some spontaneity, but really having a sense of what's going to happen. So the outline comes in handy for that. So if you're a pantster, bear with us. You know, maybe
if you're a pantser, you need to change your whole way of thinking and become an outliner.
Yeah. But anyway, so I find with each book, I use a slightly different outline. And so I don't have a template necessarily, but I do basically just to get really practical here, I do like chapter 1 and, you know, some scenes. Actually, Anne, my agent, I think she was on here. I don't know if she still is, but she saw one of my outlines recently. And I think she said something like, yeah, I can see how this will work for you, but it's not like...
It really is different for everyone. Everyone has a different method.
Yeah, someone else that looks at it's like, what is this chaos? But anyway, so chapter 1, and I write down everything I want to have happen. And maybe I skip next to chapter 5 or chapter 10. Oftentimes I also have a sense of how many chapters there are going to be in the book so that I can kind of plug in what's going to happen. And I like to hit certain... or I've learned to hit certain plot points, like you know, your climax and your
Pinch points,
yeah, at
the
different times.
midpoint. Yeah.
I try and kind of weave that in. But I really just have a new Word document and I write down my, you know, chapters 1 through 30. I just did this earlier this month. And you know, I had notes and, you know, like you said before, having ideas in the shower, like there needs to be a whiteboard wouldn't work because it would dribble, but there needs to be like an invention where you
Barnes and Noble sells a waterproof notepad and pen that sticks in your shower.
okay.
And I had it for a while. I don't know where it went. I lost it when we moved, but I had one and it was amazing.
I need that.
But I tend to just doodle on it. But yeah, so.
Christmas list.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so it's like really rudimentary, but I like to make sure that I hit certain things at certain points in the story. Like I don't want it to be, you know, chapter 29 and we haven't hit the climax, or chapter 15 and we really haven't hit the turning point. And that comes back to what you were talking about, the hero's journey. And you can even just look up, or, you know, you probably have, I think Jen asked this question, you probably, you know, are well familiar with the 3-act structure. So I follow that, and this answer is kind of messy, but my outlines are kind of messy, but then I try and make sense of it all when I'm writing. But I have the guide points from each chapter, kind of like a little outline, and you know, make sure if I have multiple characters, it's not just like maybe like a 2-character main, you know, the 2 main characters, like maybe there's a whole cast of characters. I like to make sure that, you know, when I'm looking at the outline, okay, like I didn't forget about so-and-so, and it's like the end of the book and they only, you know, they appeared for one scene and like for what, you know?
Been there.
Yeah, so I like to make sure, like when I have the outline, I like to look and see that my cast of characters and the scenes that I want to have appear and the meat of the book is all there written out, and then I can go back and, you know, when I'm writing, I can make sure that it's all happening on the page. So that's kind of what I do. My outlining isn't very methodical, and I do pretty much a different outline style for each book in a way.
Mine's very, very similar because I start with my document for every single book I write. It does expand or get different, but one thing I want to point out is don't try to be unusual and creative and do your own thing. You really should try to follow the hero's journey, because I know some authors that say, oh, you know, screw that. I'm not going to be like everyone else. I'm going to write my own book. And it's not really going to work out. And some books do. Some books are amazing and they've got some weird winding storyline. But especially if you're starting out, try to hit that hero's journey, because every book we love, every movie we love, it follows the same kind of winding hero's journey plot, and your book's going to be better for it, because if you don't, you're going to lose readers. And I've done that before, and a lot of people will say, like, my first drafts, the middle part gets kind of slow and boring because I'm not having enough things happen, conflict happen. So it really is important to try to follow it. And again, like, you'll figure it out as you go along, because some outlining methods work for some people, some other things work for others. And like, I don't really show my outlines to pretty much anyone because nobody would get it, because it's all the weirdness that goes on in my own brain.
Yeah.
So like when I send an outline to my agent, I spruce it up and make it coherent, you know, and functional.
Yeah.
But like my own method is just kind of something only I understand.
Yeah.
So Jen said we're giving her many ideas for her outline, so that's good. I'm glad we're helping. Yeah, so I always say another idea is to move your ending to the middle to see how that changes the stories and raises the stakes. That's from Anne. Yes, Anne has some really, really amazing advice, and she's super mean and always tells me to delete my first chapter, and she's always right.
She's also
so you might want to listen to her.
She's also an actual genius, like so smart and so insightful. Like, you know, tore a few of my manuscripts, you know, to pieces. But
she's mean, yeah.
But for the best,
we need to get her on the show.
Yeah. And I'm actually Anne's my agent for anyone that doesn't know. She's at Totally Fantastic. But I want to add kind of what we started with and what you just touched on a little bit is, when you're outlining, you know, you have your pinch points, you have your plot points, and you want to really make sure through all of that you're kind of connecting dots with a lot of conflict, a lot of tension, a lot of like building up, and like this feeling of like almost like you're setting up all the dominoes, and it's kind of the person, the reader's almost like going to be holding their breath. Like, okay, these dominoes are just like they're precarious. They're standing on edge. Like, what is going to happen? And that's kind of what you want your outline to kind of create. Like each chapter or, if you use a traditional outline, like your Roman numerals, whatever, each of those is the domino. And at some point, maybe 75% the way through the book, they're going to tip, and then what's going to happen? And that's kind of like what you want to be creating. Okay, we have a new comment. I once had an idea for a story, and I wrote short summaries for each chapter, and I started writing the story with the 5th chapter instead of the 1st. Or should I always start with the beginning?
Start with whatever you want.
I think though, a lot of times, like what you said, Anne, oftentimes is like, get rid of your 1st chapter. Oftentimes.
That's what I was going to say. If the book, if it really starts on the 5th chapter, maybe that's where your book should start. Sometimes not, but maybe it should.
And sometimes the 1st chapter that you write is just you warming up. It's just you getting the initial thoughts that are out in your mind out onto the page, and it's almost like a 0 chapter. So maybe there's some important things that will end up being in the 1st chapter, but it's almost like, okay, I need to flush out these ideas, flesh them out, and get them all down and sort of examine, okay, well, maybe this isn't really the beginning. Maybe this isn't going to be what makes the reader want to turn to the next page, but I need to get it out anyway. And that's a useful exercise. It's not wasted time. So yeah, totally. If you write the 1st chapter and then you're like, the 5th chapter is really where the story begins, it kind of can feel like a setback. And that's real. Like, oh, I wrote all these chapters, you wrote like 10,000 words and here you are, it's just like scrap them. But always save it because
always save it.
And you can come back to it. You can take pieces out of it. It can be bonus material for something someday. So, yeah.
Also, so when you're outlining, so I usually start writing at the beginning of the story, even if that has to get trashed later. But there has been one time when I was writing City of Legends, when the book idea actually came to me. I had this amazing, it was actually pretty much like the climax of the story. It was in my head, and it was so powerful and so real, and I could not wait to write it. And I started writing, and I got a few chapters in, and I was like, forget this, I'm going to write that scene. And so I actually wrote out of order. I wrote that, and then I ended up writing the ending of the book, and then I came back. Yeah. So, and that's just one of those ways that sometimes your process will change. So if you're feeling pulled to write something, just write it. You don't have to write in order. I usually do because I write so quickly. I write all my books in 25, 30 days. So it's usually I can just get through it chronologically with no problem. But yeah, try it, see if it works for you. Yeah. And secondly, you're going to have to delete your 1st chapter. Like, I think every book I've ever written, the 1st chapter has been deleted, except maybe Sasha. But it's so funny because Anne and I, although she's Deirdre's agent, we live close to each other, so we go out for lunch every now and then. And she's always like, you got to delete your 1st chapter. And she is so right, because even as an experienced author now, I have 5 published books, and I've written dozens more. I think I know how to start a book with action and excitement and don't dump a bunch of boring crap onto the reader. And the book that I just sent to my agent, she was like, this is great, but we're going to delete the 1st chapter. And I was like, that's technically the 2nd chapter because I already deleted my 1st chapter. So it's like, ouch. And she's right. Like, sometimes you start the book sooner than it needs to start. You need to jump in. And then all of that background extra stuff that you want the reader to know, you can find a way to filter it in small bits, not in a big, large info dump. And so that one really kind of hit hard because here I was thinking, like, I'm so good at this now. I know how to start a book in the right place. And we straight deleted my first deletion of the chapter. I was just like, seriously? And it made the book better too. Yeah. So, yeah. And that book's on submission right now. So I'm super scared.
I'll add just, we're talking kind of like more technical stuff, but writing is so humbling. Like when you think you're like, yeah, I got it, I'm awesome. It's like you hear back from someone like a beta reader or whatever, your agent, friend.
Or a Kirkus reviewer totally trashes you. Yeah.
Your daughter.
Yeah. Actually, well, my kid hasn't insulted my writing. That's good. My daughter read my book, The Breakup Support Group. She's a teenager. And she said, Mom, this book sounds just like you. And I was like, what? And she said, I don't like reading it because it just sounds like you're talking to me and telling me a story. This book has so much of your personality in it.
Huh.
And I was kind of offended at first because I was like, what? I can't write a book as an artist, you know? Like, all I'm doing is just being myself. But then
Yeah.
I was like, that's okay, because she's the person probably closest to me than anyone else in this world. So, but I have had many of my personal friends tell me your writing sounds a lot like you,
Huh.
which I just get so annoyed by. But I don't know. I
Well,
don't
it
know.
also means you have a
Regardless.
voice.
Yeah, and I think my type of humor is
Yeah.
very evident on the page 'cause I'm kind of a dry humor person. But yeah, so it doesn't matter how experienced you are or how well you write, there's going to be someone that's going to trash it.
Um, I'm also going to say, just to kind of conclude with our brief outlining Q&A piece, is to be open to, you know, your method, your actual, your technical method of creating an outline, and kind of where that takes you. Kind of try and go with the flow. Sometimes if you're trying to be really structured and follow like an outline template, you can start to feel blocked. Or if you're not following one and you're like, I don't know what to do, I feel lost, maybe try one. So be open and fluid in terms of your method, and also be mindful and kind of listen to your characters and what they want and where they want the story to go. And so in both, it's like you're working together in a way, even though the characters aren't real. Um, it's kind of like a collaborative effort, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was replying. I did so good. Thank you, Julie. She said she had to leave, but she liked our live.
Oh, good.
Um,
For joining us.
So yes, always never be that writer that makes that mistake of thinking everything you write is perfect and beyond revisions,
Yeah.
because you're going to be wrong. So take it, it's a collaborative effort, and take everyone's advice, and sometimes people's advice won't be what's right for your story, but it really is good to be open and to be open to that change, especially if you want to traditionally publish, because I have news for you. Your editor and agent are going to make you change a lot of stuff. So, and I'm totally okay with that. And my opinion is I want to make the book better, and I know I'm not perfect. So, all the advice I get, I am super happy to absorb it because my name goes on that book, and it looks like I did it all, and I really didn't. It was this huge collaborative effort. So, I guess that's all. Oh, I was going to say something else. You inspired me, but I don't remember what it was.
Um,
Maybe the following a formula thing. But
oh,
yes,
oh,
I follow a formula because it works for me, because I have an engineer's brain and I like having it all lined out. But some people say they absolutely cannot write a book if they're following an outline. So again, I think you're wrong. But if it works for you, then it works for you. So you really should just try out everything, try everything out.
yeah.
And oh, and that's what I was gonna say. Especially if you're kind of a new writer, just do it. Because so many people tell me, I want to be a writer so bad. I spend all day on social media. I follow writers. I read a bunch of books. I'm immersed in the world, and all I want to do is write my own book, but I don't. And I'm like, okay, so just do it. Like, stop watching TV, get off of social media, and just write it. Even if it sucks, and it probably will, you have to get that done before you're ever going to have a published book. So just sit down and tell yourself to do it. And that's kind of how I write my books quickly, is I'm just determined to get it done.
Yep.
Because you're not going to succeed if you don't actually do something first. So
It is that simple and that hard.
mhm.
We had one more question from author, I'm not sure, Isla?
Oh, Isla.
Isla.
Yes, I know her.
Okay, good. I don't know if you're still here, but if you are, she wrote, her question was, oh wait, where'd it go? I lost that. It was about finding a writing community. And
She
I want to
said, any advice on finding a writing community?
Yeah, you've come to the right place.
Us!
Us. We are a writing community. We are here live with you right now on Wednesday mornings, but we also have a Facebook group, a Facebook community that's private, and we can ask questions that maybe we don't want to ask, publicly, or share things, that maybe we don't want all of Instagram to potentially see, or, maybe if we're feeling a little timid, if we're new, if we're like uncertain, you are more than welcome to join us. It's on Facebook, and you just have to click request to join and we will add you. And we've been talking about books that have helped us write, which is kind of
Hmm.
thing because
We're still a fairly new group because this is only the sixth episode, but we are super welcoming and we'd love to talk to all writers. Another thing for getting a writing community, I think it's really fun if you can have a writing community in locally. Some people don't. I'm really lucky to live in Houston where there's 800 billion writers. So, I mean, Anne, she lives close to me. I have CC Hunter, who's amazing, lives right down the road. Becky Wallace lives here. There's just tons of young adult authors and other authors that live around here. So, if you live in a big city, I would definitely try to look around and find some authors that are around you. You can post on social media, do some research, and just ask if they want to go out for coffee. That's how I met all of my writer friends. And another thing is you can join professional groups. Like I'm a member of RWA, which is for romance writers, and they have local chapters in Houston. So, but there's all kinds of writers groups. I would just research it.
Yeah.
And actually you step out of your element and go to one of those meetings. It's very scary. I didn't go till Anne took me because I didn't want to go by myself. But I've had a lot of fun and I've met a lot of people. So that's another way to get a writing community. You could also just try to start your own, I guess. And it sucks because I know some people live kind of remotely and don't have any writers around them, in which case I would say join an online writing community. Join us. And join social media and follow the hashtags, hashtag #amwriting, all kinds of stuff, and just meet people along the way, and you'll find your tribe. And I did. I found Deirdre. Actually, I think she found me. But it's so great having a writing community and having people that support you and that you can talk with, because even if you have a supportive family or friends at home, if they're not writers, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And there will be several times where you're just like, why don't you get it? You know, like my husband, he tries to be supportive, but he doesn't actually get it. No matter how much I describe to him writing and publishing, he will still never fully get it.
Yeah.
So having a writing community is really, really great. And Isla, I think you moved away, didn't you? She said, my thing is I need advice, extra eyes on my query letter for sure. Oh, send it to me, girl. I'm happy to read it. I know she used to live kind of in my area, but I think she moved. Yeah, send me the query or go to our Facebook Writers Uncut group and post it, and we'll be happy to help you.
Yeah.
I don't claim to be an expert, but I'm happy to help you with it.
Yep, that's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining us today with all your wonderful questions. Maybe we'll talk about plotting next week, or you can always DM us or leave in the comments on one of our posts like, hey, I have a question for Writers Uncut, or you can even post it if you're part of the Facebook group. You can even post it there, and we have a little document where we keep them all listed, and so we make sure we cover everything over time. So we're so glad you joined us, and please spread the word. Let your writer friends know so we can build a community and we can all be a part of it and contribute. And if you don't have anything else, we'll see you guys next week.
I do have something else. I wanted to recommend a book.
Oh, yeah, we were going to do that. I forgot. Yay.
Okay, so just real quick, we're going to add book recommendations at the end of these. So this week, and it's going to show up backwards, I want to recommend Every Ugly Word by Amy Salter.
Oh, yeah.
Just pretend that it's not backwards. This book is amazing. I read it. It's very powerful and it's amazing, and it has this plot twist at the end that you don't see coming, but in an amazing way, because some plot twists make me feel betrayed and angry. This one is really, really good, and I think it might be on Kindle Unlimited too. So make sure you check it out, Every Ugly Word, and then let me know how much you love it, because it's really, really good. I can't hype it up enough.
Yeah.
So what's your book recommendation?
Can I do one next week? Like, why don't we
Yes.
today? Like, yeah, let's all.
Okay.
There's just one a week, because then so it doesn't get over.
That works.
Because I forgot.
I literally emailed you this.
I know.
But okay, yeah. So thanks everyone for joining. You can find us on YouTube as well to watch our old episodes. This is our 6th one, so you've got 5 other ones you can watch. And I feel called out. You are called out, Anne.
If we could have if we could have 3 people on this, you'd be the 3rd person on the square.
Well, I want her to join me. I think she needs to come over next week, and she can sit like right here.
Yeah.
And we can both be on this. So I'm calling you out, Anne. Maybe we can do kind of an Ask Agent thing or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And you can tell everyone to delete their first chapter.
Well, thanks guys for being with us today and asking your questions and helping create this community and all that good stuff. And we will see you on the gram.
Yep. And see you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.